Hi guys. I'm here with your story/stories, depending on how long the first story is. Maybe we can get two in today. I got these ones I haven't read them yet, but I picked them out of the inspiration section. Looking out the window, the wind's getting kind of bad out there. Looks like it's going to come down to a thunderstorm maybe. But let's see. I thought this one sounded interesting, but I'm afraid if I click on it and read it, it's going to be something really stupid. So I'm sorry if it is. But I thought it seemed interesting. What do you guys think? The title is called, What Really Went on the Ark? I thought this should be interesting. So let's see what it is, guys. And it's by Debbie Stickler. That's the last of them, Dad. Did you lock the cages? Of course. Good job, son. Now come in and rest. We have a long trip ahead of us tomorrow, Noah called to his family. They all left the ark. They had just filled the animals and supplies and headed off to bed. At daybreak, Noah gathered his family together and entered the ark. Once they were safely inside, God really ripped open the heavens. Water gushed down from the sky, creating huge lakes that spilled over into the oceans, setting the family off on their journey. The day wore on, and the family fought seasickness as well as boredom. Then the lightning and thunder began. The animals panicked. Somewhat fearful themselves, Noah and his sons quieted them down as best they could. That night, while everyone slept, one clever little chimp reached his arm through his cage and discovered the lock. The lock should have been secured, but wasn't. It fell to the floor with minimal effort, and the chimp clapped happily as he took his first steps of freedom. Wandering about the close quarters, he made another discovery, a set of keys. He had paid attention to the humans earlier and tried successfully to mimic the way he'd seen them use the strange objects. The sheep were now free as well. Next he released the turtle doves and ravens, which flew about overhead, creating quite a stir. The donkeys were next, followed by the kangaroos and ostriches. One by one the chimp unlocked each cage, setting his companions free to explore. He was very pleased with this new game. Between the thunder and Noah's snoring, none of the humans had a clue what was happening. They awoke the next day and started about their business as usual. Well, as usual as one could expect when sailing in the first rainstorm of their lives on an enormous boat everyone else had thought was being built by a nutcase. Anyway, the animals continued to enjoy their freedom until Noah's wife went down to retrieve some eggs for breakfast. Now, Noah's kids weren't exactly angels while growing up, and were in fact quite mischievous. They'd enjoyed the occasional prank at their mother's expense, but none of their nonsense had ever created such a scream as the one she let out on that trip to collect eggs. The entire family rushed to her side to see what was the matter. Noah's face turned even whiter than snow-colored hair on his head. He'd never seen such chaos, not even in his son's bedrooms. I thought you said you locked the cages, Noah shouted to his son. I did. At least I thought I did. I'm pretty sure there were a lot of locks to remember, Dad, and the animals were so smelly. I was kind of in a hurry to get out of here. He didn't really have much of a defense prepared. How are we ever going to fix this? Look at them all. Strands of hay floated about. Birds were squawking. Bunnies were hopping. And one little chimp was swinging from a beam on the ceiling with an amused look on his face, jingling the ring of keys. Grandpa, that's not how the story goes. Tori had had enough of his grandfather's ridiculous retelling of the famous Bible story. How do you know? Were you there? Grandpa asked with a raise of an eyebrow. Well, no, but that's not how they taught it in Sunday school. You're right, Tori, that isn't how the story goes, but it very well could have happened if Noah's family hadn't taken their responsibility seriously. That's my whole point. Everyone has a job to do, some small, some big. The Bible says everything you do, you are to do as unto the Lord. Do you know what that means? Kinda. Doesn't it mean to do stuff like if God was the boss you're doing it for? Tori was starting to get the point. His grandfather had gone to such lengths to show him. Right. Grandpa, I'm sorry I didn't take my chores seriously. I'll try to do better from now on. That's my boy. I knew you'd understand. You know it really could have happened my way. Just imagine all those animals. Grandpa, Tori rolled his eyes, and they both laughed at the thought of poor old Noah and the clever little chimp. Oh, that was cute. I thought that was cute, guys. Now, let's see how long that story took. 6 minutes exactly. When does that ever happen? Exactly 6 minutes. Let's see, if I try to read another one, it'll probably be a really long one, and the video will get really long. Let's see, you know we're not going to find another one that's got that good. You usually get stuck with a bad one. But that one was good, I thought. Let's see. This one sounds interesting. Let's see. Hopefully it ain't too long. It's called Eric and the Skid Row Bum. And it does not say who, does not have an author, does not say who it is. We were the only family with children in the restaurant. I sat Eric in a high chair. Hey, we read this one before. Yeah, we read this one. Remember, it was about that guy, that guy that was like a homeless guy, and the mother felt bad because, she felt embarrassed because the homeless guy kept looking over at her baby and talking to him. Remember? And then when they was leaving, he held the baby and then the mother and talked real sweet to the baby and just like showed a lot of love. Then the mother felt really bad for the way she acted. Like she was so embarrassed of the homeless guy. Yeah, we read that one. Let's see. Let's try this one then. Maybe we have... No, I'm trying this one. This one is just called Amy, and it's by Gary Kurz. There was not a dry eye in church. The ushers were frozen in place, and a deep hush had come over the congregation. This was one of those once-in-a-lifetime moments for me as a pastor, defining the love of God in real, everyday terms, and it was happening in our church. Months earlier, my wife and I were on a tour visiting missionaries that our church supported. While visiting one city in India, we came across Amy, a name that we would have gave her later. She was dragging herself through a garbage heap, looking for morsels of food. Our guide told us that she was probably one of the many children abandoned by their impoverished families. Don't worry, he said, it's just the way things are here. His words fell on deaf ears as we hurried across the mud-soaked street and knelt near the little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Turning her over, we were shocked to find open, gaping abrasions from where she had dragged herself across the stones and debris, apparently unable to walk due to malnutrition. My wife shrieked, "Kenneth, there are maggots in her wounds." Gathering her up in our arms, we ran her back to the Jeep. Laying her in the back seat with my wife at her side, we hurried back to the mission. There we bathed her, fed her, and dressed her wounds. She was resilient, as children often are. Despite her weakened state, she clung to my wife and would not let go of her. This was obviously the first parental care she had ever received. It so touched the both of us that almost in concert we blurted out to each other, "Can we adopt her?" Having no children of our own, it seemed like a godsend fit. For the remainder of our stay, we nurtured and loved Amy as much as humanly possible. I gave her a Raggedy Ann doll and promised we would be back for her. This must have been her first gift, because the rest of the week that doll never left her arms. After what seemed an eternity of paperwork and telephone calls, Amy was finally ours. She had regained her health and quickly adapted to American life. She learned English, started school, and most importantly, eventually accepted the Lord as her Savior. Amy was the darling of the congregation. Everyone pampered her and gave her gifts, but the Raggedy Ann remained her favorite. It was this doll, or at least Amy's love for it, that brought our church to a standstill during an evening service during our missions conference. One evening, a young missionary poured his heart out to the congregation. His moving challenge was for believers to give sacrificially to the Lord's work. At the close of the service, a special missions offering was scheduled. When the prayer needed, the ushers turned to pass the plates. The usher in the center aisle started to move past Amy, who always sat in the front center row. Before the usher could move past her, Amy reached out and grabbed his coat sleeve. The man immediately stooped down and said, "What is it, dear?" Amy, apparently moved by the message, started to place her Raggedy Ann in the offering plate. It was her dearest possession, and in childlike understanding of the sermon, she was sacrificially offering it to the Lord's work. At the last moment, however, Amy quickly drew her doll back and clutched it tightly. By this time, the attention of the entire congregation had shifted to Amy. The usher stood still, and the pianist faltered as they watched Amy battle with her emotions, wanting to do what she thought was right, but not finding the strength to do so. After a few more embattled attempts, Amy finally placed her doll in the plate, and well, that is where the story began. Everyone was in tears. A small castaway who once wandered garbage heaps just preached one of the strongest sermons ever delivered in our church. As a result, mission offerings skyrocketed, and several young people surrounded to become missionaries. When asked later why she did that, Amy simply answered, "Because I knew it would make my Father happy." I didn't ask which Father she meant, earthly or heavenly, but I think both were very happy with her that day. Barely got through that one without crying. That was a good one. I thought we had two good stories today. I hope you guys liked the stories. I hope they touched your hearts too. And this video is over 13 minutes, so we're going to definitely stop there because I know you guys like the short videos. So that is the stories for today. I love you guys. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. And God willing, I will see you tomorrow with another Bible reading and some more stories. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I love you guys. Bye.